Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
To quote Dick Girardi, yo. Penn State basketball is playing tonight at Robert Morris. It's an exhibition game to benefit Coaches versus Cancer. That'll be tonight in Moon Township. And then a week from Monday, the opener with Delaware State.
Basketball's back.
It is back. And it's the earliest they've ever started. They've never started a game as early as November 6th, which they will. And so they're going to have 4 home games to open. Delaware State on the 6th, Lehigh on Friday the 10th, Tuesday the 14th with St. Francis, and then on Friday the 17th, Morehead State. Morehead State just got a big blow to them. As a matter of fact, Sam Freeman, their top scorer, one of the top players in the Ohio Valley Conference, hurt his wrist. He's out for the year. So he didn't want to hear that. But for Penn State, this will be another opportunity. You had the 2 games down in the Bahamas. You had the scrimmage with Villanova. Now you have this. Now this is going to be more of an open forum tonight. It's a game. It's an exhibition game. So it's more of an open forum tonight as opposed to the double secret probation scrimmage, which nobody in the face of the earth is supposed to know about, but everybody does find out about.
It never happened, Steve. What are you talking about?
Yeah, nobody knows. I thought your team was impressive last night. Oh.
What, my New York Knickerbocker? Is that who you're thinking about?
No.
Oh, what team
Your
then?
alma mater.
My alma mater, Syracuse. You know,
Brent Pry is now 4-4 down to Virginia Tech. Good for him.
Good for him.
I know, bad for you, but I mean, obviously,
yeah.
No offense. I don't know Dino at all. I've known Brent for 10 years.
No, that's okay. How do I best summarize the Syracuse team?
I just run up the white flag, move on.
I mean, look, we started off the season 4-0. We felt really good. We had beaten Purdue, beat Army. It was like, okay, we're making progress. And since then, we have put up a grand total of 34 points in 4 games, 14 against Clemson, a touchdown in the third quarter against North Carolina, and we had not scored a touchdown since then until last night in the third quarter. It was 6 straight quarters of nothing. Zip, zilch, nada.
Yeah.
And Dino Babers is a great guy, and I know I've discussed a lot how I don't call for coaches' resignations. There is a lot of pressure now. There's been for a while on him because it seems like every year, as soon as we lose to Clemson, the rails fall off. It's yearly at this point where everyone else, we can look great. It's perfect. It's awesome. Yeah. But then as soon as you lose to Clemson, just everything goes haywire.
Well, you know,
it happened again.
Okay, so let me talk about that for a moment because it is apropos to this week. Look, you throw a lot into a game like Ohio State for obvious reasons. It has all that playoff feel when you get to it, and there certainly was, no question, a playoff feel leading in. It was a playoff feel as the game was playing out, and you don't win the game. So now you have to overcome that. And for the players, there's a process to getting back. The question is, for me, the people around them. And I'm talking about student body. I'm talking about people on social media, about their ability to get back. Because unlike other seasons, and the 3 that come to mind in the most immediate past would be 17, 19, and 22. In each case, Penn State hit November and did not have a game that could positively change the trajectory of their season, except for keep stacking wins. But there was nothing that nationally you'd sit back and go, whoa, okay, all right, here we go. That's great. All right, that'll move them. No, there was no game that moved Penn State. This year's different. There are games that can move Penn State, right? It starts with tomorrow, but then there are games after that can move Penn State. And I'm talking about move Penn State up. So that's why it's far from over. College football brings with it a different dynamic than anything else. Even with the college football playoff, only 3% of the teams make the playoff. When they go to 12, oh, wow, 12 is a big number. It's going to be up to 9%. Mm-hmm. You know what the NCAA tournament is? 19%.
Yep.
Now, there are more teams. There are 362 that are there. But 19% make it. Penn State last year made the NCAA tournament with 12 losses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you know what? Okay, because it's a longer season and so forth. Here, one loss feels devastating. Except the reality is, with so much season left and significant games that can then change the trajectory upward, it's not as devastating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You wanted to come out 7-0. Now, I mean, the train's really rolling. And this campus would have been rocking, rolling, the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
But this is different. It's a different dynamic. So they have Indiana tomorrow. Brendan Sorsby will be the starting quarterback for Indiana, by the way. He began the season as the starter against Ohio State. Then Jackson took over. Then they decided to open it up again. Sorsby re-won the job.
Mm-hmm.
He throws a decent ball. Decent.
Not bad.
Right? But he moves pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's his movement that is one of the reasons they felt they wanted to do that. They actually ran a couple of option plays, like old-fashioned option, like down
toss
down the line, pitch. They actually ran a couple of those last week. And when you look at the totality of the season, there's just too much left to play. So as devastating as many people felt, you have, I mean, the fans can feel any way they want, but there's a lot of football left. And not only that, there's significant football left.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you could say there's a lot of football left, and there are games that you're probably the prohibitive favorite in every game and so forth. That going back to 17, 19, and 22. That's the way it was. And I said that on the show at the time. I said, here's the problem. The problem is Penn State, I said, needs to keep winning games, but there's not a game that this year it's different. They have those games. Excuse me. And you have to get back on track starting tomorrow. The weather's going to be beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's about time. I mean, the fans deserve that. I mean, the players do, but the fans really deserve it. I mean, you've endured a lot this season, the second half rain with Iowa, the rain with UMass. I mean, everything. I mean, geez, even if you went to the Rose Bowl, the second half it rained. All right. Well, now you're going to have a day tomorrow that's tailgating weather extraordinaire, game weather extraordinaire, post-game tailgate extraordinaire, and a chance to go out and have some fun and see if your team can win tomorrow against Indiana and get themselves back on track. There is a process during the course of the week that a team needs to get itself back on track. It's not just, hey, flip the switch, everybody's mad, let's go. No, there's got to be a process. You have to go through like, okay, what didn't you do right? Okay? Actually, what did you also do right? And you have to make your corrections. And then you get your two big days are Tuesday, Wednesday. And last night was a walkthrough. But even in a walkthrough, you can make mistakes on a walkthrough. So you can't, you've got to be precise on everything. And later today, they'll do Fast Friday, and then they have the game tomorrow. But the dynamic of the season is still there because it's hard to imagine the top, I don't even know how many undefeated teams are in front of Penn State right now. 4 or 5?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen. Now, I know the first college football playoff poll comes out on Tuesday. I have not seen, obviously, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State. I know they're undefeated.
As
Washington?
things sit, currently Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Washington, Oklahoma are all undefeated and ahead of Penn State. So that is 6 right there.
Okay, so 6. Well, it's already guaranteed that it's 5, right, in one form or another, because Michigan and Ohio State will play. Plus, Penn State plays Michigan too, but Michigan and Ohio State will play.
One's got to lose.
I mean, let's face it. Penn State beats Michigan, all of a sudden, but Michigan beats Ohio State. Oh, okay. Right now it becomes really jumbled.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen. Georgia's going to play Florida this week without Brock Bowers. This is going to be the first real game they've had without Brock Bowers. We know what he means to them. Kirby Smart, to his credit, in my personal opinion, has actually done a terrific coaching job with his team this season. He really has. When you're the number one team, 2-time defending national champion, it just everybody says, "Oh, they just got so much talent." I mean, he's done a really good job. Right? They've been behind in a couple of games. They've come back. They were behind Auburn, won. They were behind South Carolina, won. He's done a really good job. Florida State is still an interesting team to me. I know they've cleared the Clemson hurdle, which is big, but they still have work they have to do here down the stretch. And the Duke win was big. They kind of struggled against Duke for a period of time. Duke not having its starting quarterback really hurt them in the second half. And I do give him a lot of credit for not putting it back in. He says, "Look, you're hurt." Well, when you have a head coach that cares that much about what's going on.
Thing.
That's a good thing.
But Steve, they only beat Syracuse 41-3, so I don't know how much they give up 3 points to Syracuse. I don't know how much I can believe in Florida State.
Really don't see your point. So that's where you are at this time, and it's what makes this era dynamic and with possibilities, but also brings with it is social media. Now, you notice how I phrased it. Social media brings with it communication, brings with it opportunity, because there are players with NIL are using social media to enhance their NIL presence. So it does bring with it possibilities. But like anything, it's not perfect, except for Jerry's show every morning. Yeah, I read it exactly the way Jerry's. Well, he misspelled morning.
Yeah, of course.
It's okay. But there's nothing that, is a perfect scenario. And that's social media. For every positive it brings with it, or maybe even every 2 positives, there's going to be a negative. Well, the negative is the ability to get in touch or post something about directly to players and so forth, or about players. Okay, I don't know what that accomplishes. I know maybe it's cathartic for you. I don't know.
It's as someone who's on social media and uses it in that form, because of course Drew Brees has never seen anything I've ever posted in my life. I know Demario Davis and Cam Jordan have, because they've reposted stuff I've posted, which made me happy. Okay. But it was about their outfits and how great they looked.
Sure.
It's a bit of a catharsis. It is you can kind of post your feelings and you can see that others also feel the same way as you a lot of the time. So I'll be watching the soccer match Arsenal's playing, and last week they drew Chelsea 2-2. During the game, they looked terrible. And I'm there shouting at my TV screen in my apartment, like, come on, get better. And I go on social media and I see others posting the same feelings, or they see something I didn't see. Sure. So it's a bit of a way of letting out your emotions, but also seeing, okay, what am I missing? Am I missing the big picture here? Is there something that I just have not seen that we're even worse at or better at, and I'm just not paying attention to because I've got all these emotions boiling up inside? I know. Very poetic.
No, but I understand what you're saying. You back up what I'm talking about. And there are, and like I said, I think I pointed out there are a lot of positives on social media. This has not been a social media rant, an anti-social media rant. I think I pointed out the positives and then said, okay, here's the issue with it that players have to deal with. Not so much coaches, I mean, maybe to a point. Depends on, everybody's individually how you feel about things.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the issue. They know out there that they think you're just not the greatest thing on the face of the earth. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, but I look even better when the lights behind me go out. That's when I look my best, personally.
Yes, well, that was an interesting move.
And now I look orange with blue behind me.
So it is. James Franklin made the point earlier this week, and he's right about that, and he talked about it in the talk show last night because he was asked about it, that you could go through the Tuesday press conference in years past and just kind of turn the page, get it going, get a direction going. But you can't do that today. Yeah, you'd still do it, but you can't do that today because people can still get to your players on social media. And guess what? Every once in a while, some of them want to engage. Like, don't engage.
That's when things go bad.
Right.
They go poorly.
Right. And I'm not saying anybody's done that on this team. I'm just saying, it
happens.
It happens. Okay. I'll give you an example of in this industry. Danny Cannell hosts a morning show on Sirius XM with Dusty Dvorak. And Danny Cannell engages social media and gets into Twitter fights on social media. Now, when I saw him on Saturday, I didn't bring it up because he was at the game. All right. And I didn't bring it up. But it was one of those, I kept thinking the entire time, he says, I wouldn't social media fight, but I'm not going to give him advice. He's not going to give me advice. I'm not going to give him advice.
Mm-hmm.
But he engages in it. I think he likes it. My social media presence is rather limited. I know you're shocked.
I'm blown away.
But it does bring with it like more management needed by coaches with their players because you don't know what's being, and you do have to have a social media team that's looking out and saying, hey, they're saying this about, and they're being direct with it to the individual, whatever.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of players now, especially in the pros, have just said, I'm not touching my social media. It is all for my social media team is doing it. I forget who it was this summer. I forget who it was, what soccer player it was, but I think it may have been Neymar. They were playing and they were having a terrible game. Mm-hmm. And at halftime, the social media team posted something, an ad on their Instagram story, and everyone started flaming them. And they were like, my team posted that, not me. Like, I don't use my social media. Right. So he's like, I don't see anything.
Like Shedeur Sanders was accused of that.
It was him. It was Shedeur, that's who it was.
Right. He was accused of doing that at halftime, and he didn't do it at halftime. Somebody on his team.
It was set up and scheduled to post at that time, and it just happened to be at halftime when they were getting rocked.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Stanford. By the way, they're the primetime game this week on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado, UCLA Rose Bowl.
Coach Prime. Right. He's always prime time.
What about Coach Chip? No?
No, sadly not.
Not Coach Chip?
Mm-mm.
But that's the primetime game on ESPN. It's going to be Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit on that game with Holly Rowe. But you can't, again, so you see how Colorado uses social media. Right? And the Penn State players use it. But it also means people can get to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
There is that engagement part of it. Because they want Twitter followers. Well, Twitter followers also bring with it engagement. Some of it extremely positive, some of it financially lucrative, right? Depending on what entrepreneurship they're in, and some of it very negative.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, ran into Sean Clifford at Northwestern because the Packers played a Thursday night game with Detroit up at Lambeau. And Detroit played a terrific game. They really dominated Green Bay. Jordan Love didn't have his best game.
Mm.
And Sean was telling Jack Ham and myself He says, guys, he says, it was unreal. People started chanting at Lambeau, we want Clifford, we want Clifford. He said, for 1 second, I went, hey. And then I thought, yeah, that's right. And he said, all the time I spent at Penn State, we want Levis, we want Aller, we want Aller, we want Levis. You know, he says, I get introduced before the game, got booed. Right. The backup quarterback is always, and I said, I'm going to do everything I can to support Jordan. I know what it's like. Mm-hmm. Right. And then, of course, now you've got people like upset at Drew. Mm-hmm. You know, Drew, and Drew was upset at himself. But a leader does that, though. A leader gets up and says, it's on me, da-da-da. Look, it's not on him. Mm-mm. Okay? Could he have been sharper? Yes. Could he have been protected better? Yes. Could his receivers maybe helped him in a couple plays? Yes. Could they get a little more separation? Yes. Okay? It's not all him. Okay? Again, could he have been sharper? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay? No question. Right? Nobody puts more pressure on themselves than the people doing it. Right? And do you think the guys walked out of there and went, boy, I'll tell you, yeah, I know he was, but golly, that was great. No. Nobody's more disappointed than they are. As disappointed as you are, they're more disappointed.
Because they're the ones that have to deal with it.
They're the ones that put themselves out there. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that did all the sprints in the offseason. They're the ones that did all the weightlifting in the offseason. They're the ones that did all the preseason practices, played all the games, right? Got ready for this game, watched all the video. Mm-hmm. Right? They did. Mm-hmm. Okay? And it's you've got, and I think people have to realize that. Do you think they wanted to make mistakes? Mm-mm. No. Do you think the coaches wanted to make mistakes? No. Or right? Or call something that wasn't well executed? No. Mm-mm. Right? Okay. Things happen. Right? And let's just, there's still more football left, and it's meaningful football. And it starts tomorrow. I know it's a noon game, but the weather's going to be so nice, I think it compensates for it being a noon game. Mm-hmm. Right? And you need to go out and get it done tomorrow, right? Have everybody walking out of there with a more positive taste in their mouth, and then go from there, because you still have big games in front of you, right? And tomorrow's a big game because it's the next game. The part I do find comical, and I really do, whenever I have somebody make a sarcastic comment to me about the 1-0, I don't really say anything, but I'm thinking to myself, you have no idea how this works. Mm-mm. I mean, how much time, except for April and May, when I do all the extra work in the off season, how much time do you think I put in on Maryland? Or did I put all my time this week in Indiana? I'm just talking about from my personal point of view. So I'll talk about how I go about it. Because it's the only game I have. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing Maryland tomorrow. Mm-mm. I'm doing Indiana. Well, people expect me to be good, or at least passable, all right, for the hours I'm on. Mm-hmm. Right? I can't be sitting there just saying, yeah, boy, Sorsby, yeah, let's talk about Tonga Viola for a moment. No. Mm-hmm.
But Steve, what about J.J. McCarthy?
Nope. And then with that, like that week, I've got a game on Monday with Delaware State, and I've got a basketball game on Friday with Lehigh. Now the average, fine, you just go. No, I have a responsibility. I'm expected to be completely locked in doing those games. Mm-hmm. Right? Well, that's what their responsibility is as coaches and as players. So when they talk about the 1-0, it was interesting because Josh Allen, last night in the post-game interview on Prime, said our whole thing was to be 1-0 this week. I thought, oh, interesting. I wonder where they got that from. All right? Because that's the reality of it. Who are the individuals that can look ahead? Fans. Totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
Completely, absolutely get it. So please, I no criticism from me in the least, except I totally get it. Who can't? Players, coaches, or the people that are actually working the game.
Mm-hmm.
You have to concentrate on the matter at hand. Thus, the 1-0 mentality. That's when somebody goes, "Oh, 1-0." That's so like, yeah, okay. You're a fan. I got it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. I realize it. Right? You make it seem like everything is like they're going to spend the entire week practicing on Michigan. No. You'd be shocked they actually practiced for Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what they need to concentrate on. They need to win this game.
Yeah. And I have a question for you, but we'll get to that. We'll take a quick 30-second break, and we'll be back with some more.
We have a website. 7mmsports.com is your hub for all things 7 Mountain Sports. Watch the latest Sports Talk with Steve Jones episode. Find what station you can listen to your favorite Penn State sports team on, and even get live social media feed. All these things are available at 7mmsports.com.
Look at that. We're so professional here.
I'm taken aback.
You're amazed. You're blown away every single second of the day.
Anything that's attached to social media, I'm gung-ho.
Oh, yeah. You are the social media king.
So James one time said to me, he says, "I don't think you're the biggest Twitter guy in the world." I said, "No."
But I have a question for you. So the NBA season just started back up, and there's a lot of storylines going on, as we, of course, have discussed.
Sure.
We're a few games in now. The big one for me, though, my favorite one, is in Brooklyn. I know, a team we shouldn't discuss this year because they have no Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, whatever. But as a broadcaster, what is it like for you to now see Noah Eagle taking some of the responsibilities away from Ian Eagle? That Ian will be doing, there's 10 games where he's not going to be able to broadcast for the Nets. So Noah is taking over in his stead.
Sure.
And he'll be joined by Richard Jefferson when Ryan Russillo can't come. So what is that like to see the new generation of broadcasters coming up, and this weird one with, I guess, a kid taking over for his dad? It's one of those really cool things.
Yeah, because Jack Buck and Joe Buck were actually together. The Carries, Harry Carey, Skip Carey, Chip Carey. It's amazing. Chip ended up leaving the Braves. He did the Cardinals this year. And my good friend Brandon Gowden ended up getting the Braves job. And Brandon did a great job, which I'm not surprised. He's also the voice of Madden. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Gowden? Yeah. And so Noah Eagle, to his credit, age is not the key. Are you a pro's pro, and are you good at your job? It doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s. I don't know how old Noah is.
He was a senior my freshman year because
so he's in his 20s.
He is, yes. He should be about 26, 27.
Right. And I don't care if you're in your 20s or you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s. If you're good and you're a professional, that's all that matters. I think Noah is really good. I think he is a professional. I personally like him, personally one-to-one. And I think he handles games. I've heard him do basketball. He's going to do Peacock basketball, by the way. So he'll do probably a couple Penn State games this year. And he's done a great job in the NBC deal. It doesn't matter to me what his last name is. It doesn't matter to me who his father is. His father is elite. His father will take over the NCAA Final Four this year from Jim Nantz and earned it. His father is brilliant. But just because his father's brilliant doesn't mean it translates down to his son. And his son has been able, in his own way, to carve out his own pathway because he is, to me, a top-shelf announcer who's just going to get better. But he already is really good. And it doesn't matter to me his last name. It doesn't matter to me who his father is, other than the fact that his father's great, right? And it doesn't matter to me what his age is. Right? It's whether you're good enough, and he's good enough. Now, are there some sons of broadcasters that aren't good enough? Sure. I'm not going to sit here and that's not. Okay? I'll keep my opinions on that stuff to myself. But he's good in his own right. Right. So taking over the Nets for 10 games a year.
Yeah.
Right. And Ryan Russillo, by the way, gets more of them anyway. That's fine. Right. It makes sense. It's not like they're not bringing in somebody who's not nationally known, because he is doing NBC's Saturday Night Football, Big Ten football on NBC.
I mean, he did Penn State opening weekend.
He did Ohio State and Notre Dame, right? Did a great job with it, right? Did he do that?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did that one, because the other primetime one was...
I forget who that was.
Notre Dame played. It was an ACC game, right?
Maybe it was a Clemson or
It wasn't Clemson yet.
North Carolina, perhaps. I'm trying to think who it would have been. Not Florida State, because they haven't played.
No, it was USC. USC. And it was not the Saturday night crew. It was the Notre Dame crew. So, no, it doesn't. Honestly, age doesn't mean anything to me. Experience, if you're able to handle it, no.
Yeah.
Not really. I think if you're good, you're good. I think he's good.
I just love seeing, that's like one of those really cool things for me, I guess, seeing this weird thing where I've listened to Ian. We've all listened to him. He's as good as they get.
He's brilliant. Never had a chance to meet him, by the way. Noah, I have, for obvious reasons.
Yeah. And just all of a sudden, I saw the announcement and I was like, this is really cool. Like, this is a cool thing that he is taking over 10 games from his dad. That's cool. And Noah's as good as they get. I mean, he did the Clippers basketball the past few years, so he got Kawhi and Paul George. Not half bad.
He knows what he's doing. So he knows what he's doing. And that's, he has a great voice. I think he has a great feel for it. And and if his name was Noah Michaels,
he'd still be good.
Nobody would think twice about it.
Agreed.
So everybody thinks you get a huge advantage because of who your father happens to be. But at the same time, I think you get undue criticism because of who your father. Well, you only got there because just close your eyes, listen to him. He's really good.
He's really good.
That's just my personal.
Yeah, and he's calling the NBA. That's a big thing he does. Of course, he did the Clippers. That was how he got started out of college.
Yep.
And the NBA season is now back. And I don't know if you and Jason discussed it yesterday at all, but a lot of things have happened in the NBA. And the big one, of course, the Sixers played last night against the Bucks, and Embiid played MVP basketball, but he got Dame timed, is the nice way to put it. They got beat, and it was apparent they didn't have James Harden.
Yeah, but James Harden, I'm sorry. All right, James Harden.
America's sweetheart.
When he first came up with Oklahoma City, he was the sixth man, and they got to the finals. They lost to Miami. But it was a team that had Durant, Westbrook. Harden was the sixth guy off the bench, and I thought Harden gave a really good account of himself as the sixth man. When he went to Houston in the trade, I was really surprised. Okay. Like, geez, I got rid of that guy, Because when Harden was Arizona State, I did vote him first team All-American on my Wooden Award ballot. That's your first and second team All-American teams. So I voted him number 5. I thought it was pretty good. But in Houston, he became so ball-centric. And there were a lot of nights it worked. In key moments in the playoffs, it did not. And the ball-centric part continued. So they brought in a point guard, Chris Paul, so he wouldn't have to be so ball-centric, and still ended up being incredibly ball-centric. And then he goes to Brooklyn, and you're going to put him with Kyrie Irving, and you're going to put him with Kevin Durant. And, and with all the circumstances, Durant got hurt. There's the COVID thing, right? Whatever. It doesn't work. So they make the trade, and they send him to Philadelphia. He gets, according to Doc Rivers, all bent out of shape because he's not in the All-Star game. Isn't there a point in your career where you look around and say, you know what? winning a title means more to me than anything. Who cares if you're in the stinking All-Star game? Who cares? Yeah, what, you want to be a part of the club? All right. Okay, here's a club I want to be in. I want to be in the club that has a ring.
Yeah, I enjoy what's on here.
All right. Okay, so let's go back. Let's take two players that are two of the great players of all time. One a little more contemporary than the other. The contemporary one is Kevin Garnett. He finally gets to the Boston Celtics. He just does whatever it takes. You guys need to be me to be a rebounder tonight? I'm rebounding. You guys need to be a shot blocker tonight? I'm going to block some shots. You need me to score tonight? I will. Do you need me to then get a double in the post and kick it out to Ray Allen or Paul Pierce? I'll do it. All right? All he cared about was winning. What is the perception of Kevin Garnett today as a 2008 NBA champion versus the Kevin Garnett that would never have won a championship had he stayed in Minnesota? That he'd be a great player, but he didn't win anything. Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady is a great player, but they had zero traction, literally, in the playoffs.
That's the problem with Damian Lillard. The other guy who played against Sixers last night was great player, has never won.
Right. I mean, got to the semifinals. Right. See, McGrady didn't win playoff series. Right. Lillard at least has been a part of playoff series winning teams that just couldn't get past the Western Conference Finals. Okay. Now we get to one of the all-time greats, but now I went contemporary. Now I'm going to go into the Wayback Machine. Oscar Robertson. Great player at the University of Cincinnati. Phenomenal. Okay. Goes to the Cincinnati Royals. Averages a triple-double. Right, 1 year. So long before Russell Westbrook, he was the first one to do it. But again, great player, can't get anywhere. And so the Milwaukee Bucks, who with the first overall pick used it on Lou Alcindor, a.k.a. now Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, gets into Jabbar's second season, and they have to do something. So they make a bold move. They bring in Oscar Robertson in a trade with Cincinnati. That with John McLaughlin and Flynn Robinson and Lucius Allen and people like that. And I know it's pathetic. I know the Milwaukee Bucks lineup, right? Bobby Dandridge. All right.
Now you're showing off.
Maybe. And Robertson looks around and says, what do you need me to do? Do you need me to score? Do you need me to pass? To this day, when you ask Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the best point guard he ever played with, everybody automatically assumes he'll say Magic Johnson. And, of course, Magic Johnson is one of, he's the platinum standard of point guards. But he'll tell you it's Oscar Robertson, a guy that checked his game in at the door because winning the title meant way more than making the All-Star team. And Oscar Robertson's entire perception is great player, champion. James Harden's perception is, okay, can be a great player, can be a great scorer, but can't get you anywhere. That's the perception. I'm not saying whatever, but he can't get you anywhere. He can't get you where you're going. And when you hear about Doc Rivers saying that he was extremely upset and his game went downhill when he didn't make the All-Star game. Like, who cares if you make the All-Star game? I mean, maybe you have a bonus. He's been in the All-Star game. What? It was more important to be a part of the club? Here's a club. Here's a club for you. Why don't you be like Chris Middleton and have a ring? That's why you play the game. You don't play the game to be in the All-Star game. You play the game to be the team at the end, right? To be Jamal Murray. Right? That's who you want to be.
I want you to guess. How many times has he been an All-Star? Or let's go All-NBA. How many times has he been in the All-NBA teams? Give me your best guess, James Harden.
All-Star game, I'd say 9 times.
10-time All-Star, 7 times All-NBA.
Yeah.
But he needs that 11th.
But I'm saying he needs a ring.
Mm-hmm.
Right. What makes the special players special? Dan Marino aside. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When they win a ring, the perception of Drew Brees, your guy, is exponentially different because he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay? All the records, all the yardage. I mean, to this day, people still look at Fran Tarkenton, despite the fact that he has all these great. And look, Fran Tarkenton, especially when it was the first time through with the Vikings and went with the Giants, he was the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the only one that now the second time through with the Vikings, they had some really good players around him, no question. That's why they got to 3 Super Bowls with him. He didn't win any of them. Right? And, it doesn't mean he's less successful in life. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but it's always sitting there that despite being a great player, and Fran Tarkenton was a great player, Dan Marino was a great player, and they're not solely responsible for the results. I mean, Fran Tarkenton throws a ball over the middle to Sammy White in the Super Bowl against the Raiders, right? And gets blown up on the play and fumbles it. Like, okay, well, gee, is that Fran's fault? Nah, I don't think so. But it's the perception of it.
There is an asterisk put on your name if you don't win a championship, if you're a great player. You can be great. Chris Paul, great player. One of the best, if not the best point guard ever.
No titles. I mean,
asterisk.
Right. I mean, Durant went to Golden State because he knew he was falling into that category.
And now it doesn't matter that he won the title in Golden State or wherever else he would win it. It doesn't matter. He's got a championship. He's got rings now. Right. He doesn't matter. He's like, I'm good. I'm going to go now try and win more, of course.
Why did Dwight Howard go to the Lakers to be a backup?
To win. Why did LeBron go to the Miami Heat?
Right. Wanted to win. Knew he had to change the trajectory of his perception. Now, in doing so, he changed it positive and negative. And then when he went back to Cleveland and won, he recaptured the negative. In other words, he turned it around. But that's what the sport is all about. Who's standing at the end? Right? And it's hard to win. It's really hard to win. So who cares about making the All-Star game? You're trying to win. That's where the disappointment comes in. We're a second-round casualty in the playoffs again. Right? Well, guess what? And he never figured out how to play with Embiid. He never figured out how to play with Maxey. He always seemed like a fish out of water, And I asked Kate Scott. I asked Ala Abdelnaby. I mean, I asked all these people about, about how he mixes in there. Oh, yeah. It's like, he was like, oh, yeah, but I didn't get like a hearty endorsement. Okay. But I got, oh, yeah. He goes to the beat of his own basketball drum. And you've got to being a team player means so much. Now, look, let's always remember this. In the biggest games, your best players have to be your best players. Okay. Right. That's what makes them your best players.
Yeah.
You need them in the biggest games to be your best players. He hasn't been his team's best player in the biggest games. And that's a big problem. Yet he wants to be because he likes being in the club. Well, it doesn't matter about being in the club. Here, join the club that has rings, right? Rings leave with them a legacy. And that's what they do. It leaves with it a perception. Those great Atlanta Braves teams, Glavine, Smoltz, Maddox, year after year after year, winning division titles, getting to World Series, not getting it. But in 95, they won it. John Smoltz is going to sit there on the Fox broadcast tonight, and he is a World Series champion. Okay? And that makes a big difference. And when you're going to look at the Fox set tonight, A-Rod has 1, David Ortiz has 3, and Derek Jeter has 5? 4?
4. Shall do some quick research.
I want to say 5. I want to say he's won 5.
You're going to say he's won 5. I'm going to say he's won 5.
Yes. I want to say 96, 97, 98, 2000, and 2009. How did I do?
It sounds correct.
Okay. All right. But they're all out there because of their credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the fact they can speak. Yeah. I mean,
helps.
I'll give you one. Great player. Perception totally changed. Pedro Martinez. Pedro Martinez was on a World Series champion.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, in Game 3, pitched a phenomenal game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But he's a champion. Okay. And hockey, and I'll give you the one that I always find comical.
Mm.
He's only won once.
He won. Doesn't matter.
Excuse me. Do you know how hard it is to win one?
Mm-hmm. Well, everyone was like, oh, but Kevin Durant teamed up with Steph Curry and all of them. They still had to go through and beat LeBron. And they had to go through and beat everyone else. They almost lost to the Rockets.
Mario Andretti's only won 1 Indianapolis 500. Really? Compared to your 8?
Yeah. People were like, oh my gosh, Messi's only won 1 World Cup. There's one every 4 years. Right. He's only had so many chances.
But the fact is, winning 1 is huge because it's hard to win 1.
That's like I just mentioned him, Messi. The perception around him forever was, well, he hasn't won the World Cup, so it doesn't really matter.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. at Daytona 500.
Mm-hmm.
He's 0 for 20. Then he finally,
Mm-hmm. And now he's the greatest of all time. Well, it's a ridiculous conversation, but you mentioned great players showing up at the times they're needed. The NBA example currently, Giannis. He won a title. Mm-hmm. You know what he did in that final game?
Yeah, 50.
50 points, 5 blocks, and 14 rebounds.
Right, in a game 7.
Ridiculous. And he had the game-winning block on DeAndre Ayton as well. Just a ridiculous game because he showed up when his team needed him. Messi scored his penalty in the World Cup final, assisted goals, everything. Shows up when his team needs it. Harden played a couple okay games against Celtics, and then what did he do the rest of the way after those first 2 games?
Nothing.
Put up goose eggs.
Cale Makar comes up when the Colorado Avalanche needed him 2 years ago, and they, and just made one big play after another for them. Best player. He and McKinnon, Nathan McKinnon was the other guy's a real star in that team.
Mm-hmm.
Came up huge in the Stanley Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Crosby, Malkin,
Ray Allen.
Okay, Ray Allen.
The one moment he is needed as a Miami Heat player.
He hits the 3 against San Antonio.
Does what he's needed.
Right. And it's just, we remember those moments. Right? Nobody remembers teams, unless it's your team, that loses in the second round. Now, Sixer fans remember it around here because it's your team. I got it. Right? The rest of the country's like, yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and to be honest with you, you talk about Giannis, Embiid in Game 7s comes up small.
Yeah. Jokic forever had come up short every time, and then he won, and now he's good. He's happy.
Yeah. He got it done. Yeah. And, I talked about your guy, Drew Brees. Forever the perception is, he won a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't going to really look at the records. They just know he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. What what a player. Yeah. Then it starts to be then we start to get into the ridiculous ones where he needs to win a second one for his legacy.
But Steve, he's got 4. The other guy's got 3. 4 is better than 3 always. It's like they won. Let's just winning takes a lot, y'all.
One of the problems with 24/7 sports radio is you get into a lot of ridiculous conversations on the air. Who's got a better legacy, LeBron or Brady? Oh, jeez.
But Steve, have you ever won a title?
Me?
Yeah.
Of course not.
And then how dare you talk in the same breath as players such as, I don't know. I can't think of it on top of my head. That was good and funny.
Well, Peter King and I were together on a Little League team that won the town title.
I'll count it.
When we were 11 and 12.
So you're a champion is what you're saying.
You know, it's like, great. And now he's with NBC, and I'm sitting here with you.
Yeah. The show of champions, Steve. And of course.
So we won a Little League title. Yeah. Okay. I didn't go anywhere. They gave us a trophy at the end.
It's okay. And we'll be back.
This was back in a time when they didn't give trophies to everybody. You just got it if you won.
Winner, Steve Jones. And we'll be back on Monday with more.
Yeah. Number 1.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with